jako jumpuyhmä soittaa ja sitten lähettien kokemuksia luetaan ääneen. Ja me tehdään näin siksi, että koska iso osa läheteistä on töissä freelancereinä, niin he eivät voi omilla nimillään osoittaa mieltään, koska heidät pystytään irtisanomaan niin helposti, joten me entiset työntekijät ja muualla työskentelevät lähetit sitten luemme niitä heidän puolestaan.
Siitä, että palkanalennukset on peruttava. Toisin kuin Foodora väittää, freelancer-lähetit eivät voi ansaita enemmän uudessa palkkiojärjestelmässä. Uusi palkkausjärjestelmä on käytännössä palkanalennus. Tämän lisäksi kilometrikorvausten ja parkkiedun poistaminen pienentää autokuskien asioita entisestään. Foodoran on palautettava vähintään entiseen palkkiojärjestelmään ja palautettava kilometrikorvaus ja palkkiedun tai järjestelmään, että palkkiot ovat vähintään yhtä suuria.
And because we are a very international workplace with many couriers being also other than Finnish speakers, we will read also the demands out in English, especially because decisions regarding the policies of Foodora are not always made here in Finland, but Sweden and foremostly Germany. So we issue these demands because we want not Foodora to fail, but because as couriers and car drivers, we expect to be treated fairly. Moreover, we think that the outlined improvements will result in a better motivated and committed workforce, which will ultimately be in the interests of Foodora. And we ask that Foodora addresses our demands in a satisfactory way by next Friday till 12 o'clock. And if our demands are not addressed, the campaign will continue and move on to the next stage. The first demand is to repeal the recent pay cuts. Contrary to what Foodora claims, freelancers cannot earn more with the new pay system, which effectively is a pay cut. The removal of kilometer-based allowances and parking benefits further cuts the pay of car drivers. Foodora must return, at the very minimum, to the old pay system for freelancers, including the reinstatement of kilometer-based allowance and the parking application, or to a model which equals or supersedes the total pay of the previous agreement. The absence of kilometer-based allowance can only be compensated with an additional €1 an hour and the parking benefits for the car drivers. Number 2, more humane and transparent shift allocation with the possibility to guaranteed hours for freelancers. Foodora freelancers are divided into 4 so-called batches according to their bi-weekly performance as determined by an algorithm. Shifts are made available to the first batch who gets the first pick, while the last batch chooses from whatever shifts are left, if any. If freelancers do not continually take shifts, miss their shifts due to sudden illness or other factors determined by the algorithm, their batch position falls and it becomes increasingly difficult to get shifts in the future. Foodora must return to a shift allocation which does not penalize freelancers for illness or unpaid leave and offer the possibility for some guaranteed hours also for freelancers. Number 3, reinstate the rider space for couriers and drivers. In the past, Foodora had a common space where couriers could leave their belongings during their shift, eat, use the toilet, warm up, change clothes, store their belongings and repair their bikes. These are essential to the work of a courier and therefore the rider space must be reinstated. Number 4, some form of compensation for the maintenance of necessary equipment and guarantees or insurances for accidents and cases of illness for freelancers. Freelancers are responsible for providing and maintaining their bicycles or cars and necessary equipment like phones. Foodora must offer some form of compensation for the maintenance of work equipment and compensate work-related phone calls couriers need to make. A major problem for freelancers is the precarity caused by any lack of security in cases of accidents or sickness. If a freelancer cannot do a shift because they get sick or are in an accident, they lose income even if they are not penalized by the badge system. And finally, number 5, the possibility to get an employment contract for at least long-term freelancers. Those who have worked long at Foodora should be given the possibility of becoming employed with a part-time contract at least. And this was the case in the beginning when Foodora offered employment contracts for couriers, and this option should be returned. An employment contract would address the concerns of security and guaranteed hours more comprehensively. Thank you.
Foodora has not given any information about this legal stuff and how to carry out billings and bookkeeping, VAT, pensions, and so on. Foodora's system for overtime is unfair. Once my shift was ending at 10 p.m. and then they asked me if I can do overtime. I agreed to work till 10:30 and my working time changed till 12:30. But after 10 past 10, there was no task, so they end my shift at 10:15. Well, my end time was changed to 10:30. And same happened to my friends. Foodora storage opens only for an hour a week, every Wednesday from 5 to 6 p.m. So if we need anything, we need to wait for a week and leave all personal works behind and be at store at that specific time. We must have more flexible time for this.
And we, of course, will be in touch with Foodora, also electronically. And so, yes, we'll see by next week how Foodora responds and how this campaign will continue. I thank you all for coming, especially thanks for the ROR rhythm group. Thank you, and thank you all for participating. We'll see you next week. Yeah!